This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
Hey guys, I'm David.
I am Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series. So in this brand new episode, we have for you, we've got this week we have a good friend of ours actually, and a man we've come to know quite well over the last kind of year, almost to the day, as you'll hear during the episode. And we talk about a really interesting concept actually, is around how men can use sex as a way to enlightenment. And I think it's something that I really have seen for myself over the last couple of years, especially in the learnings I've done around Tantra, how sex can be basically a type of meditation practice, an awareness practice, a consciousness practice beyond just being lost in the dreamings and the thoughts and the worries that usually come up in sex. So we delve into quite bits around that, as well as we talk about kind of feminine, masculine dynamics as well.
Yeah, there's what I love is what Kapil says, in contrast to what a lot of people ask, especially with women, is do men just want sex? And what Kapil says is no, it's not that men just want sex. It's actually that they use sex as a form of waking up, or as some people refer to it, like spiritual enlightenment. And so sex can be, as David just mentioned there, through his work with Tantra and stuff, it's like sex can be used as a way to evolve ourselves and our understanding of ourselves, and actually become the fullest expression of who we are and reach our potential. And this is the fascinating thing that Kapil goes into on this episode.
Yeah. So and kind of in any other business, obviously we've got our communications course, which is coming up on Thursday, the 16th of July at 7:30 p.m. London time, BST. I'll double check that because it's very easy to get wrong with UST, but it's definitely BST, people. It's free. It's for men only, so sorry ladies, this one isn't one for you to attend, but if there's enough of you that make a call for it, we will do a course just for the ladies. But yeah, we're going to be going over, but the course is called Create Attraction Through Conversation. So it kind of says what it does on the tin, right? It's like we're all about how men can kind of create attraction and deep connection with the women they meet through conversation. And in this times now where, the pandemic's hit and there's not as much opportunity to kind of be out and about, you're not going to go to work anymore. You're not going to be meeting the love of your life on the tube. The fact that you're going to be kind of talking online, talking on Zoom, your ability to connect through conversation is going to be of the utmost importance. Yeah,
I mean, there's not much more I can add to that. I think that you covered that really well. So yeah, we're really excited to be running this. As the first time we're going to be running this as an online course. And really, as well, when David and I sat down, it was really okay, this is really important now to do this as a way of being of service to everyone, so they understand what it takes, because we know so many men and women, but we definitely hear from the men who struggle with creating a real meaningful connection online. And especially, like David mentioned, through now we're using Zoom and having Zoom dates and all this stuff, things have really moved. So, it's totally possible. And that's what we're teaching, how to create attraction through conversation.
Yeah. So, actually, before I forget, there's actually another course I'm going to be running under for Tailor Match that could be interesting for some men. It's a modern man's guide to sex, and the first of this kind of mini series is going to be about how to improve your performance, how to improve your sexual performance. So if you head over to her website or you head over to her Instagram, you'll be able to get the link for that. And I'll be taking men through, and it's a men only workshop. I'll be talking about how you can improve your sexual performance through, various techniques, all natural stuff that you can just implement at home on your own or with your partner to basically heighten your sexual pleasure. And also, the ultimate thing that many men worry about is lasting longer. But, it's going to be a very interesting workshop. I've been putting it together. I'm actually really excited about that as well.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people are going to benefit from David's years of wisdom. And I've been telling David for a long time he needs to be teaching it. So it's amazing that this moment has come. So that no pun intended there. But no, that's really cool, man. That's really cool. I look forward to it. Cool. I think the only other thing is, we have an amazing newsletter now that comes out every month. And if you haven't already, you should definitely go over to our website, www.authenticdatingseries.com, and sign up to that newsletter. And that's the best way to find out about all upcoming news and any new things that we're doing. You may have recently heard or seen on our Instagram that we've just had a unique T-shirt designed by a good designer friend of ours, Vincent Wren. And for anyone who's interested in when we're going to start selling those, should definitely sign up to our email list, and that's the best way to find out. And yeah, there'll be a competition to release some of those out, and that's another way to find out is to jump onto that mailing list.
Yeah, I think that is all of the AOB, as they like to say in the office world. And yeah, we'll jump straight into the episode. It's a really great one. So if you get a lot out of listening to it, please feel free to share it with your friends and families, loved ones, and random people you know. Cool. Without further ado,
let's get into the episode.
So we got a really fun episode for you guys today, and one of my favorite people as a guest on the podcast. Finally managed to get you on here, Kapil. How are you?
Thanks, AJ. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. For those of you who don't know Kapil, he runs a beautiful company called Nibbana.life. And it's all about getting men and women, right? Men and women?
Mm-hmm.
From performance to presence. And I love that. But actually, why don't you introduce yourself, Kapil, and tell people a bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah, so as AJ said, I run an organization called Nibbana.life. And the organization is very much about connection. And the idea is that we focus on men, women, conscious relating, and also a part of the business is dedicated to corporate services, but it's all centered around connection and how to have better connection in our lives. Because Nibbana is a Pali version of the word nirvana, which ultimately means how to get freedom, how to get bliss in life, and how to get freedom from this world. And the way I came across, I was a lot of my journey over the last 7 years has been about personal growth and transformation. And I realized that I think, and as Nibbana, Nibbana word stands for, it is about having freedom or having bliss in three core areas of your life: the material life, and our values by which we live our life, and also what we call our relationships and connection and intimacy. So I think those are kind of like the three key areas. If we find bliss in these three areas, then the idea is that our soul can be free. And that's what Nibbana, the idea behind Nibbana, is all about. And yeah, I've been working with sort of men, women, and on one-on-one basis, and also people who are in relationships over the last 7 years. And it's really been about my own journey and my own transformation. So everything that I do is from a place of my own experience. Like I've gone through all the shit he can think of, and that's what I work with people on. And it's also the interesting piece is that I actually find people who come to me are very much sort of aligned with my own journey. Like I had a 15 years corporate career and very much driven my life based on performance, going from one place to the next and like on that corporate ladder, until I got to a point where I started questioning, is there more to life than what I was experiencing at the time? And I also went through a long-term relationship, and I was just in a place where it just felt like I had lived all my life on performance, on trying to prove that I am somebody. And there was almost this place where I felt like if everyone around me was happy, then somehow I will be happy as well, you know? So I ticked all the boxes and I got to a place where it's like, oh, everyone around me looks at me and says, oh, yeah, this guy's made it. And I still wasn't really fulfilled or happy deep down. And over the last 7 years, my journey has been very much about cultivating presence, cultivating attention. And that's what my business is about: how to move from a life um, that is driven by performance, by continuously postulating and reaching out for something, to a life that you can build around attention and presence. And whether it's your work, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your intimacy, sexuality, everything, when you start to live from presence, everything starts to transform.
Wow, it's beautiful. As I just said, like we've become friends with Kapil over the last almost year now, right? I think we've all known each other. And
Yeah, I think it was about this time last year we met, right?
Yeah. You know what? I know the exact date actually. It's like the 19th of August.
Oh, okay.
Or the 20th of August, something like that. And we've also been running Man Up together as well, right? The three of us,
right?
Which is on an in-person and online event that we've run 3 times for men and for women to go deeper into what it means to be a man and talk about masculinity, something that Kapil also has a huge amount of knowledge in as well.
That's my favorite topic.
You were close.
Masculine, feminine conditioning and masculine, feminine dynamics. I love talking about that.
Sorry, I just looked it up. It was actually the 17th of August, Dave. You're very close.
Okay.
Just a couple of days off. Yeah.
Get your facts straight, David.
Yeah. I will find my fact checker.
Yeah. I don't want us to get banned for having fake news.
Yes, fake news.
Sorry, yeah. So Kapil, you said, sorry, I spoke over you there. You were saying your favorite topic is masculine, feminine dynamics.
Well, yeah. Sorry. I love talking about masculine, feminine dynamics. And by that, what I mean is, I think a lot of the time when we talk about masculine and feminine, usually people straight away assign masculine to men and feminine to women.
Yeah.
And straight away, there's a gender that gets assigned when we talk about masculine and feminine. And my own experience is that I think there's a couple of different dimensions that masculine and feminine conversation happens in. One is the socio-political conversation, which is where masculine and feminine is about gender, and which is the place where it's about equality. The conversation is about equality, that everyone, irrespective of the gender, we're all equal, right? However, there's a different dimension, which is relationship and sexuality. And when we go in that dimension, masculine and feminine is about differences. It's almost like certain traits that are masculine and certain traits that are feminine, and we all have them. Irrespective of what gender, we all have them. And we all have a certain essence, which may be more masculine or more feminine. So generally speaking, if we say men are more masculine and women are more feminine, however, that's not necessary, and so that's how I differentiate masculine and feminine. And then there is a place where I think if we look at any relationship or any relating, we usually have some kind of cultural or family or religious conditioning that we operate from. So for example, men are associated with color blue and women with pink, which is nothing but a conditioning that we have. So there's so many things like that we grow up with. And it's not just like our lifetime, but many lifetime of conditioning that we associate with what is masculine and what is feminine. And so anytime when we talk about the feminine masculine dynamic, ultimately what we are talking about is the conditioning with which we operate from. And we all have our own individual conditioning. And I love that part, because there are certain things that are cultural, so you can associate with, generally speaking, women, or generally speaking, men, and they show up in relating, they show up in sexuality. And it's just so much fun to play with when you start working with men and women on that piece. So that's my favorite topic.
Yeah, I know. Like, it seems like so long ago now. I mean, with the last Man Up event that we did, but I know, like, that's definitely something that we were really spreading the message of people to, and especially particularly men, to understand that we all have masculine and feminine energies within us, and to actually just start to own that and start to understand and to explore what that actually means for us as individuals. So yeah, no, that's a beautiful place to start. So I know one of the key things that we really wanted to get into today is actually off the back of something David and I were talking about on our Instagram, where I put the question out there. We put questions out to people, see what comes back, and to see what people think. So, but there's a lot of there's definitely, like, in general, like, maybe not in our circle, in our bubble, but I still think, like, by and large in society, there's a general idea that men are only interested in sex. I could even go so far as to highlight this with there's a show called Undercover Bosses in it's an American show, and there was one I saw one day where this guy was like, he realized that men respond really well to sex and sports, and so he created a restaurant all around sex and sports, and he called it Bikinis. And so all the women wear bikinis, and he's like, this shit's recession proof. Like, he's like, yeah, this, men are always, yeah, they like, and the food is like the third thing on there, right? So you got the wings and whatnot, right? But really, men are coming for the sports and the women. And so I put the question out. It's like, do men actually want to learn about anything deeper than just sex? Because it seems like that's the thing that they respond most to. Like, if we were to say to guys, hey, come and we will teach you how to become a sex god. I mean, that course isn't ready yet. We're putting the final touches on it, but
Can I attend that course, please?
yeah, bro. You'll be teaching it with us. Yeah, we'll be demonstrating on you. Don't worry. Yeah. So, but you know what I mean? Like, there's this idea that that's all men really give a fuck about is sex and pussy, and that's all they want. And so I put this question out, and Kapil, you responded, and I really loved what you said. And you were like, I don't think that's the right question, and you started talking about something which to be honest, at the time, I hadn't considered for myself as an alternative narrative. But basically what you were saying was, like, actually men can use sex as an access to, as you say, wake up. I used the word enlightenment, but you didn't like that, so we'll say wake up. so yeah, could you, like, let's explore that, because I think this is really key, and I think it's something that we're not taught in general. They don't teach you this in sex ed. This doesn't. They can't really explain this with a banana. So yeah, like, what is that about?
I think let's start with this. Continue with the idea of conditioning. So we will make some assumptions, and one of the assumptions is that when we talk about men, we're talking about masculine conditioning here, right? And one of the masculine feminine dynamic that exists is that men have been taught that our power is in taking. Like we are told that you have to go and take, right? So we are continuously grabbing for things. However, the feminine conditioning is that women are taught that their power is in withholding sex, right? So, and so that's what we are living. We're living that most men and women out there are living that conditioning where we're continuously reaching out and taking and grabbing for sex while women are withholding sex. So that's how we feel we are in our power, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it seems to be the case that men are only interested in sex, right? So that's the first layer of it, as I understand. However, and that's why I think even in my case, when I started my personal growth journey, one of the main reasons was that I wanted to be really good with women. I wanted to explore sexuality. I wanted to understand women better, understand relationships and sexuality better. And that's how I got into personal growth journey through a practice called Orgasmic Meditation, which was a partnered practice for 15 minutes. It's a clitoral stroking practice. And so it becomes a gateway. It becomes a gateway. And the reason I said bait and switch in my answer was that I think wake up, or you call it enlightenment, is a bait and switch thing. It's like there are different gateways to get into the process of wake up and enlightenment, but the end result is completely different. So sex in that way becomes the gateway for men to like, oh, I want to be better at sex. How do I get better at sex? I will have to understand women. I will have to understand how to be in my body. I will have to understand how to slow down, and rather than reaching for climax, I can stay present in the current moment and feel what my partner is feeling. Because when I can feel what my partner is feeling, I have to be out of my head and in my body, right? And when I'm in my body, all my fears, all my shame around my own body, I'll have to deal with all of that. All my issues around how I subconsciously or unconsciously treat women, I have to deal with that. If a woman is powerful, how do I show up as a man? I have to address those issues. So when we go into sexuality, so sexuality becomes a doorway or a gateway for that reason. And when we go into that, we ultimately have to learn about who we are as men, and how we define our self-worth, how we define our inner value. And that's how it becomes like ultimate. The end result is our own wake up, but the doorway is through it looks like, oh, we're reaching out for sex.
Can I just Dave, just before you jump in, because I know this is something that not everyone is aware of. So when we talk about wake up and enlightenment, how are you defining it? Just so that the listeners are clear, right? We just want to be
In my case, I think being aware of all the programs that are running in our unconscious brain, and bringing consciousness, like shining light in all those areas. So you can call it shadow work, you can call it wake up, but it's ultimately all our blind spots, right? So for me, one of the big things that happened when I started this work was I hadn't realized how much I had shut down my feelings and my sensitivity over the years. And as soon as I started looking into this work, I realized I never got angry. And I just assumed that I'd never had I never had any anger issues. I was above that. That's how I used to think. And I remember a workshop when we were doing some exercises to let anger out, and I just couldn't. I just stood there smiling at other people, thinking they were idiots for getting angry. It's like, no, nothing bothers me, nothing touches me. But after that workshop, I actually had a almost like an out of body experience where I could feel this like anger coming out of my body. And I realized in that moment that I had created so many layers and blocked any kind of feelings beyond those layers. So, like any time in my life where my heart got broken, or any time I felt when I was sensitive towards somebody or something, that I was told that it wasn't a good thing being sensitive in this world. Every time I remember telling myself, oh, you're not supposed to feel this way. And I remember telling myself that I'm never, ever going to let that happen again. I'm never, ever going to feel this way ever again. And I would like consciously shut down a part of me so that I could never feel that heartbreak again, or never feel sad, or never feel anxious, or never feel down. So any negative or what I feel, assume as negative emotions. So I purposefully started to shut down those negative emotions. But now I know what happens is when you shut down negative emotions, it doesn't it doesn't work in isolation. If you shut down anything negative, you can't feel anything positive either.
Yeah.
You don't allow yourself to feel sad. You don't allow yourself to feel happy.
Yeah.
So I was living my life in this like narrow bandwidth of almost like a robot. Like nothing bothers me. And it was in this workshop for the first time where I realized like just how much I had blocked, how much of my sensitivity was completely shut down, and so when I talk about wake up, it's like in that moment I woke up to something. And there's like thousands and thousands of places like that. It's just realizing something about yourself and saying, oh, I am blindly or on autopilot operating in a certain way. And when you realize that, that's the wake up moment. And one of my teachers used to say is like, oh, waking up is the easy thing, staying awake is the harder thing. I can become aware of my patterns. That's the first step. But then the hard work starts, where it's like every time that, because you start to see that pattern everywhere in your life once you're aware of it. And then you become overwhelmed. It's like, oh wow, what have I done in my life? Because it's omnipresent.
Yeah.
And then changing your life or building new programs and staying awake in that way is the harder part. So that's what I mean by wake up. And I don't like the word enlightenment, because I think generally speaking, enlightenment is associated with this idea that, oh yeah, once you reach enlightenment, that's it, you're done. And in my experience, and maybe it works that way, maybe once there is a time when you get to that spot, you're like done. You chill, you're an enlightened being. In my experience, it's hard work. In my experience, it's a continuous work. It's almost like peeling the layers of the onions back. So you just keep doing that. You keep waking up. It's not like a one-time thing. You keep waking up. You keep doing the work, and it's a work of a lifetime.
Definitely, it's never ending, right? It's like there's always more under the programming. Under the first layer of programming, there's another layer that runs that you're not necessarily even aware of, and then you become aware of that layer, and then you're like, okay, you start to unpick that, and then there's another layer underneath. It's like when I hear people say, oh, I'm self-aware, and I always think to myself, the first sign of a lack of self-awareness is saying I'm self-aware or I'm fully self-aware. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I'm more self-aware than I was before, but it's like it's a continual thing. I wanted to say
Yep.
something into we were talking about how men, we get our power from grabbing at sex, particularly.
I said
Because I think
taking,
there's
but
also
you heard grabbing.
taking.
But okay, that's
I
fine.
heard grabbing. Yeah, I thought your name was Donald.
Grabby.
Taking. I swear I heard grabbing.
We can rewind it afterwards. You could...
No, but it's like it's interesting because we're socialized in such a strong way, because even other men give you, you know, kudos, man points, whatever, for being that man who is seeking sex, that's going out and getting it constantly. Do you know what I mean? It's not just we do that for ourselves internally, like the whole conditioning is around us.
I love that. I think, and it, in my experience, it also points to yet another masculine conditioning, which is that men usually relate to each other from a place of one-upmanship, right? And it's like, and this is one of my core beliefs that I continuously work on. It's this place where I meet someone, straight away I'm looking at, am I better than or less than? Am I better than or less than? Is he better than or less than? And we're continuously comparing ourselves with other people, and that, so a lot of the performance piece that comes, you know, in it's nibbana.life as well, and in all of my coaching work, one of the big things that I work on is this mindset of our self-worth that is defined from the idea of whether I'm less than, what kind of man am I? Am I better than you or am I less than you? Right? And it's simple to say it this way, but the amount of our minds are so tricky, man. Our minds are so tricky. It's like every time you think you've got it, the work becomes more and more subtle, and our mind starts to trick us in very, very innovative ways. So I think that piece comes from this idea of performance, and the performance is that I need to be good at something, because when I'm good at something, then I'm better than other people, and when I'm better than other people, then my self-worth, like I am now worthy because I have a higher moral ground, and when I have a higher moral ground, I can get some relief in my system. Because if I'm less than, then I'm continuously working towards getting equal or better. So the only time we get relief from that conditioning is that when in my mind I can feel that I'm better than everyone, then I can just like, oh, I can relax. I can relax for a little while, and I don't have to work this hard because I've got to the top. And as soon as I meet and that lasts only like 5 seconds, because I meet the next person and I'm straight away in that loop. It's like, am I better than you or am I less than you?
Yeah. I'd say, I mean, I can really resonate with that. And I'd say there's another caveat, which is that in my particular version of that, it's like, I'm not supposed to be. I'm as in, I need to strive to be better. But as soon as I'm in a position that I actually am better, or I feel like I have been given the evidence I'm better, all of a sudden something feels wrong. Like this isn't how it should be. I shouldn't be better than other people. And then there's almost an anxiousness around it. And so the comparison works both ways. It's like it's like, oh, I need to be better. How do I fit into the scenario? And then, oh shit, hang on, you know, now I'm at the top, something's wrong. I need to equibrate. I can't think of the word right.
Calibrate.
Calibrate. Yeah, it has to, like, it's almost like an airplane. It's gone too high, it needs to come back down. And so it's a funny one, but it's a good one to be aware of. And you were saying earlier, Dave, about like self-awareness, because these are the little things that take our attention away from just being present to what is, to just what is, right? Just the enjoyment. And I find it very interesting because I know myself, and I know that I'm not like, super confident 100% all the time. I'm out there like some sort of military army man, Batman type character. But there are people that will look at me and they will assume and continue to assume that I'm like, that I've got some super tight inner game, and I'm just like constantly confident. They're like, yeah, not everyone's like you, AJ. You're super tight in a game. I'm like, no, you've misunderstood. I swear I've been sharing. I thought I've been sharing openly about how this is not how I operate, and actually where I get my confidence from is actually by feeling insecure and going, oh, okay, that's just part of my makeup. That's part of who I am, and I can still feel insecure in it, and I just let it go. I don't necessarily go, oh my God, something's wrong. I'm just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's coming up. So yeah, sometimes it gets the better of me too, but that's the thing, is like, it's actually becoming more human, and it's funny how often we run away from just being human.
Yeah. You know, I think this world would be a very different place with if all men can just own up to how sensitive we are.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it would. We did a episode recently with Connor Beaton actually, and he talked about what you said about one-upmanship. He called it competition.
Yeah.
And it's like he was saying, and I feel like I've heard you say something similar. It's like when you're in this one-upmanship, right? You could never let your competition know what your weaknesses are. You couldn't tell if you're trying to beat another man at a sword fight, you couldn't tell him, you know what, I injured my left foot once, right? So just don't go for my left foot, because like it's a bit dodgy, and that's how we kind of exist. We don't tell each other like, I'm actually quite sensitive to people saying things about my family because I have a troubled family, whatever, because we feel like, oh, if I do that, then that instantly drops me down below you and I'm lesser than you and I need to be above you.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think it's this crosswire that as men we've been told, if we are sensitive or if we are vulnerable, then we are weak. And if we are weak, then we are less than. So we're straight away back in that conditioning around performance. And in all of my workshops or coaching, one of the things that I talk to with men is about why is it so hard for us to express our feelings. And the universal answer is two specific things that people say. One is, I don't want to burden other people by telling them how I feel. So as men, we carry this responsibility, this like invisible weight that we carry that we don't want to burden other people with. That's one thing. And the second piece that I hear is that, oh, if I tell them, then it will come across as my weakness and people might take advantage of me. They might use that thing against me somewhere. Right? And I feel it's sad, I think.
Yeah.
That that as men we can't get in a group together and have real conversation. I think there's more and more such groups happening, and it's still very rare for men to get together and talk about our vulnerability, our sensitivity, about the places where we feel insecure, or even the biggest issue, we cannot talk about like how good we are doing. It's so rare, even though like we're competing with each other. It's so rare for a man to actually say, oh, I just did a good job. I've just done a good job, and like just brag a little bit about their accomplishments in a vulnerable way, because that's also quite vulnerable.
And it's especially if it's with something that they really deeply care about. Like I think it's easy I think this is where you get the kind of, I don't want to call it locker room talk because that refers to our friend Trump again, but like where men get together and they're kind of like, oh, they're talking about girls, for instance, is a really easy one. Like, yeah, like I've shagged loads of girls, I fucked this girl, blah, blah, blah. But they're not talking about their accomplishment that they really care about, that there's an emotional like drawing towards or feeling towards. They're talking about very much in that surface level physical that physical nature, not in that case of like, oh, I met an amazing woman and I had a really great date and it was like we really connected, it was really beautiful, we had a lovely walk, I'm so happy it went like that. That conversation doesn't happen, like on that level of something that you're really deeply interested in and passionate about and really love. Like it's okay to brag about money to a certain degree, like, oh, look at my new Rolex, like, aren't I the man? But again, it's like very physical, very surface level.
Yeah. Again, one-upmanship. It's the same thing. If my date is hotter than yours, I have dated more women. I have dated perfect 10s, and you've dated 8s or 7s. I have this Rolex, or what have you got. It's like continuously, like that's how we are conditioned. That's how we are conditioned, I think. And it's that place, it's all of that, and that's the thing, that's the reason why, going back to the original piece around sex, is that if I'm seen to be having great sex, then the perception that people have of me is going to be that I'm a great guy. Right? If I can master this thing called sex with other women, then people will look at me and like, this dude, he's made it. He's not it's not just the material stuff that he's got. He's like great in bed. So that is the piece around personal development. So personal development, when you look at men going for personal development, it's either in finance. They all want to be financially free. So pretty much all personal development is about success. It's about how to get financially free. Right? It's about mindset. It's about growth. And it's all performance related.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So when men come to like personal growth in terms of sexuality or relationships, it usually is the same thing. It's like, oh, I want to be better at sex. I wanna be better at this relationship, which is okay, like, and that's why that becomes like the channel for people to come in. However, the fun part is that when you get in there, if you are not ready to face your own demons, your own shadow, your own conditioning, you can only go that much deeper, right?
Yeah, one of the things that jumped out to me as well is that, going back to what you were saying earlier, because if like about the high and the low, if you can't allow yourself to experience and express the lower emotions, then it's difficult to actually engage freely and happily and joyfully in celebrating whatever you've done well. And that's something that I learned as a concept, but also I've felt like in myself that, oh, okay, yeah, there's a guilt associated with having done well. Like I don't want to express that, and actually I don't. There's on two sides. On one side, I don't want to be called out. I don't want to be told that that's not an achievement. Like, so I'll just
Right.
keep that shit to myself. I don't, like, it's not, oh, everyone's done this. Oh, okay, then that's not valid. So, but then, and then another one is, I don't want to be seen like I'm showing off or whatever, right? So then, and then you end up in the band. I actually drew it as a diagram because it's something that I often been thinking about is how a lot of society does exist in a band of emotion. It's never the fullest expression of who we are. It's like we never allow ourselves to. It's a bit like Icarus. We never go so low to the sea, and we never go too high towards the sun. We just keep this thing. But actually, humans, we have a range, and for a good reason too. You know, we're supposed to experience, you know, the turmoils of the upset and the grievance and whatnot, and also just unbridled joy as well. Like actually to have that full bursting energy of sun come out of you as joy as well. And I think that's a huge one for men, is that given that we're often seen as being non-emotional, then we have no place to be emotional. We don't have any place. And by emotional, I mean both, right? Both, either you're happy or you're like, or even sad. And to express that, and often we're not given the space to actually just be and say, oh yeah, I'm just really fucking excited, like I'm really happy about this, right? It's odd. I think for a lot of men, it's odd to see them super excited. It's actually just more often just very, like, stoic's not really a word, but very contained. I'd say contained is the word.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. As you were talking about it, I was I was just remembering one of like my own story around um, exploring my own shadow and conditioning. And one of the examples was, so I was married, uh, you know, for I was together with my ex-wife for 11 years, and after we broke up, um, and when I came to personal growth work, I wanted to be an open relationship. It was like I was in that mindset that I don't, want to be back in a monogamous relationship, or tied down, So I wanted to be I had this idea that I wanted to be in open relationship. And for a while, it just meant that I was having a lot of casual sex, uh, for most part, I was stuck in my head. I was fantasizing. I was never present with the women I was with until I started um, doing this sexuality work through orgasmic meditation and learned what being present actually means. Being present and being um, sort of, so it's a partnered practice, and it's all about cultivating your presence, your attention in a sexual energy field. And when I started doing this practice, so I was dating someone at the time, and um, I wasn't really having good sex. Like I couldn't ejaculate for almost a year. And as I said, when I was with my partners, I was fantasizing or somewhere else in my mind. Um, but over a period of time, within like a couple of months, I could cultivate enough attention that when I was with my partners, I was fully present. Like I wasn't in my head anymore. It wasn't an idea of what I wanted, but actually feel what's happening for my partners. I actually feel the electricity that was in their body. I could feel it in my body. And that was like this turning point for my sexual life. Like in that way, sort of being present. But the piece around open relationship is that I had an idea that I wanted to be, what open relationship would look like, obviously. And that was that I didn't want to be tied down.
Yeah.
So I was dating a couple of different women, and I was also, having casual relationships with other women. And during this period, my partners were only with me. And I was like the happiest man in the world. There was no confrontation at that point, until one of my partners decided to have sex with another guy. And all of my insecurity, all of my, conditioning about women just came out in one go. Like, and that's what I mean by wake up, because to start with, I was just angry. I was like, how dare she doesn't care about me, how dare she,
Yeah.
go and
Yeah.
do something like this, uh and we should have talked about this, we should have agreed on all this thing. And it was all about me wanting to control her experience,
Mm.
Mm.
and it took me, I was completely messed up for a good couple of months on that.
Wow.
And I did a lot
Wow.
of, but I had a community at that time, and I had some coaches that I was working with. So I did a lot of work on understanding what was happening for me.
Mm.
And it was such a simple thing, such a simple thing where I grew up with some kind of conditioning where relationships were about acquisition. I have acquired my woman.
Mm-hmm.
Now she should act in a way that I think is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
She has her desires, great, but the only desires that I'm happy about are good.
Mm.
If she has desires that I'm not happy about, now that's a problem. Right. So so I became aware of all of this conditioning around women that I never thought I had. So it was a complete blind spot for me. And the only way it manifested was pointing finger at her. You did something to me. You made me angry, and I'm angry, and like I'm gonna punish you for that. I'm gonna be punitive. Right. But
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, when I started to see just how much of possessiveness I had around people I was close to, and it wasn't just about my relationships, it's about anyone who comes close to me, I'm like possessive. And then I want them to do everything as per my
Mm.
guidelines. And if you
Mm.
suddenly start doing, if you started having your own life, then there's a problem. And when I
It's
started to
that.
see that, it's like, how is that even possible that I have this kind of programming?
Mm.
But the reactivity that we have, when in the moment, when someone acts in a certain way, we
Mm.
don't have that rational thought. The only thing we have is our body reacts in a certain way. And
Yeah.
my body would react in a way of anger.
Mm.
Over a period of time, more and more work I did, I started to see that that sensation in my body meant that my insecurity was getting triggered somewhere.
Mm.
Mm.
Right. And I started to associate that sensation with the thought process or the fear that was getting triggered. And it was a continuous practice of putting myself in those situations again and again and again for me to get over that piece.
Mm.
Right. It's almost like to reprogram your brain. That is the practice I had to go through to put a new program on top, which is not about my insecurity and possession, but knowing that I can't control someone else's life.
Mm.
Another human being has their full desire, and if they want to explore it, when we have agreed an open relationship container, right? So, say it's yet another example of how sex was the way for me to enter that. But what I got was my own wake up, my own
Mm.
understanding of who I am as a man, and how I can be a better man. How can I
Mm.
sort of get away from this idea of how I define my manhood or that I'm good enough or not.
Mm.
Mm. I think so. What I really hear is like it's almost, I think we live in a world now where people are like, oh, this thing triggers me, I need to stay away from that thing, right? A lot.
Go towards it.
You hear this, yeah, and what I'm hearing here is like you saying that in this instance, with the woman you were seeing, her sleeping with someone else, that triggered you massively, and you start to unpeel the layers of what that was about. But instead of just going, oh, I've unpeeled one layer, oh, I think I know what it is. Cool. I'm going to put a boundary in place, so I never have to deal with that again, and I'm going to go about my life. And I really see it's almost when you say putting yourself into difficult situations to learn how to deal with the difficult situations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Because
That's how you like when we talk about what being in your potential, that's I think that's what being in your potential actually means. Like going towards your triggers, going towards your shadow, going toward, like going into the basement, looking at all the dark places in our soul, all the places where we've suppressed, you know, fears and shame and desires and everything that we think is not good, um, and make friends with it, make friends with all of that. And I think that's how we alchemize things, and that's how we move towards our own potential, you know. So it's and that's, I think, so it's a slightly different slant on potential. It's not a performance based being in potential, but more of like the work that you're doing is actually going inwards, and it's not about adding skills, it's about going back to yourself. It's like going back home to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I see as well, you know. Like I think I remember in one of our talks, people coming up and talking about, oh, how can I add this new skill so that I can be a better lover. It's like, no, like, yes, it's a good idea, and the question is more, how can I slow down? How can I be more present and really see, why do I need to add a new skill? What is the thing that I'm trying to cover up? What is the thing that I have fear around or shame around in my body that I want to cover up by adding this new skill to be a better lover, or be better at sex, or be better in relationship? You know, I think, and
It's
that's
like
the
what
path to wake up.
distraction? It's
Sorry?
like, what distraction are you trying to create so people don't see you? How are you trying to hide? It's like, how are you trying to add a new skills for you to hide behind
Exactly.
instead of showing up and being like, this is actually how I am and who I am and how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'd add though as well, I think it's also part and parcel with the way that we relate to education, because like one of our mentors, one of the things he points out is education used to be about drawing something out of the person, like, you know, that we have the substance inside of us and you draw it out. And now education seems mostly about adding something onto the person. You know, you need a new skill, you want to learn a new vocation or something, then you need to learn something. And so rather than going inside and finding out what substance there is, what's going on in there, we're so focused outwardly about what can we add to our lives and what more do we need. And it's interesting because like everything you just said there. I mean, obviously the listeners can't see, but David and I were like nodding our heads in agreement in regards to like the emotions that are experienced I mean, it's not just in open relationships, just any relationship, any sort of, like, you know, when you start to, but open definitely, it definitely like really blows that wide open, because you instantly hit with those feelings of jealousy and anger and upset, and you know the logic goes out the window. It's like, you know, you put something in place, right? So this is the structure, this is what you wanted. Yeah, for me, it's like I wanted it for me. I didn't mean everyone was going to be open,
Right. Exactly.
so
And don't
but
even get me started on jealousy. Oh man.
yeah, but
That
I
can be
love
a whole other topic.
I love the vulnerability. It's like you threw yourself into something, like you threw yourself into the chaos, like not necessarily, doesn't mean that's how you saw what you were doing, but you were so open to the chaos of it all. But you know, you really saw that actually by being open to your emotions and your experiences, that actually that was the path to waking up. That was a path to seeing your substance. Because my point here is like every man, I'm pretty sure every man and woman is having these experiences, you know, whether or not they have been triggered or whatever, but they have that lurking in the back of their mind, like, you know, I don't want that shit to crop up, or, you know, and some of them overtly are the jealous types, you know, the ones that are very controlling, and it needs to be this way, or, you know, this can't work. And
Yeah.
and I think that's a huge piece that actually of humanity that's shifting, and it's a lot of what we were doing with Man Up as well is that bringing that awareness to people to actually go, oh, actually, this is my life, and I can control what I do. Just about I could just about control what I'm doing, let alone actually forcing someone else to have the experience that I demand of them. So no, I think that was a beautiful point.
And I would add, I think I was fortunate that I was part of a community. I was surrounded by people who were all looking at relationships and sexuality and intimacy and connection as a research. So I was surrounded by people who were like-minded, and I had like multiple coaches I used to work with, to go through something like that. And I feel that it's important to have support. It's important to have support when you're going through something like this, because like these triggers are intense. Like jealousy. You talk about jealousy; it's intense.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't feel jealous," and my sense is that unless you are like so super secure in who you are, or you've done the work to really understand your self-worth, if those two things have happened, or one of those two things have happened, and you don't feel jealous, then awesome. If that is not the case, then 99% you are suppressing, or you're avoiding, or distracting yourself from the feelings that are underneath jealousy. Because I think jealousy is probably one of the most powerful feelings that exists. In terms of just how much power it can generate in you. Because when you're jealous, it's like you're burning. Your insides are burning. They're on fire. When there's so much fire in your body, you can move mountains if you just if you can learn how to be with jealousy and consciously channel it. Until that happens, it's just like you're burning in that fire. It's intense. And that's why people avoid it.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things with emotions, though, isn't it? It's like, as we talked about before, as men, we suppress, we're taught to suppress emotions. And I think even that suppression is part of suppressing our feminine nature in ourselves. Like we're told that, that feminine nature is not masculine. So you need to get rid of that. But those emotions, you said, like when they really come up, it's like, fuck it. It's all logic goes out the window. I think you said it before as well. It's like, and I think that's what is so troubling for a lot of men, especially, is that when they are feeling these intense feelings, they cannot process the world in a logical way, and they feel out of control. Actually, the emotions cause them to be out of control. So the problem must be the emotions.
Right. Totally.
So
however, the problem is that we've not been educated in how to stay conscious when we are out of control. Like if there was actually a problem to be solved, that is the problem to be solved. One of the things we used to say is like the way we are taught to have control is by avoiding the things that have hurt us in the past, or controlling our environment. If I'm triggered by something, and I know I have experienced that I'm triggered by something, so I'm either going to create an environment that never happens with the people I am with, or I'm going to completely avoid it. Right? But that's the way we've been told how to stay in control. But the other side of it is the actual freedom is in going in places that are uncertain and out of control, and learning how to navigate, how to cruise, how to surf those out of control or uncertain areas in life. Because once we can do that, then what we do is we get internal sense of safety, because control is there for us to feel safe, you know.
Yeah.
And once we learn how to cruise through uncertainty and being when we are out of control, then we create an internal sense of safety so that we can be anywhere. It's like this internal confidence that we build, that you can put me in any place and I know that I can surf through to the other end. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I have enough confidence that wherever you put me, I can navigate my way out. So I don't need to control the thing, and I don't need to avoid the thing. And that's what I think is the key question that we all need to be asking about, because ultimately we all just want to be out of control. That's like, we are all dying to be out of control, because that's where the fun is. The flow doesn't happen when we have things in control. Flow only happens when we are out of control. And that's where we feel really happy, but we're also fucking scared of it.
I guess that's where like drink and drugs are so popular, and even sex to a certain degree, right? So especially for a man, there's that ejaculation moment where you're out of control. You know, those millisecond moments is like, I'm completely out of control. We are just yearning towards being out of control, and then boom, it's gone, and then it's like, oh, let me get back in control and lie here all cool and shit. But it is, we are yearning to be out of control, but we don't want to, we're scared of what will happen in those moments. Like what I really heard when you were saying about having that internal confidence, it's like, that's the enlightenment. You know, that's where people look at someone like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of, you see images of like Buddha sitting peacefully, you know, and people think, oh, you know, enlightenment is sitting there being all unreactive to the world around you. And it's like, that's how it looks in people's minds, isn't it? Is that that's the enlightenment.
It's not passive,
like,
it's active. It's not passive, it's active. Even when you're sitting there, it's like meditation. Meditation looks passive from outside, but it's a very active thing. You're like continuously focusing on your breath, you know, observing your thoughts, or a point of like one point you're focusing on. It's an active thing.
Yeah.
So even though it might look from outside that it's passive,
it's hard work.
Well, it is, and I like, I don't want to sound that as if that it's, you know, it's all hard work. I think you get to a point, it's definitely hard work first few years, but I think you get to a point where you learn humor. You learn humor, and you learn to laugh at yourself, and you learn to look at things not from a point of view of like you're a bad person, but from a place of curiosity. It's like, oh, interesting. I am just really angry right now, and I expressed my anger, and then you get curious about it. It's like, interesting, what happened there? You know, what got triggered? And then when you realize, oh, it's the same age-old problem where I was trying to get a one-upmanship on this person, then rather than saying, oh man, this thing will never change, you just laugh at yourself. Oh, here I go again. Next time it'll be better.
There's a saying like the results change, but the feelings stay the same. And so you can see it outwardly, like you progressed in life and things have happened, but then there's often a core story that we tell ourselves about life and how things are, and that core story tends to stay the same. Like, so I had an experience where something just wasn't going my way. I was working at something, and it was the first time I was doing it. I was taking some responsibility, and it wasn't working out. And my instinct was to jump towards, fuck, you know, I just can't do this. It's just out of my capability to do this. But then there's a process that I've learned, and it's a process of like naming the thing, just because when we get into that emotion, the idea of self-awareness is like, it's completely just focused on, oh, this is real. This is a real problem. I'm really struggling, and this is not happening. So I went through a process, and the process just basically highlighted that actually the story that I was in was separate to the thing that I was going for. It's completely separate. Like I'm in this whole story about me not being capable, I can't do it. But actually what I wanted to do was just, I just wanted to get this thing done. That's it. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't need to worry about this whole ball of it. And I was still kind of seething. But I was able to kind of sit with that, kind of you say, and really sit with, and it can be easier said than done, because automatically all of our focus and attention goes on to the thing that's fucked up or we're trying to fix or that's wrong with us. As opposed to actually, I'm just trying to do this thing. That's it. Just trying to, this is another step to take, and then maybe it'll be done. So I really resonate with that.
Yeah, I love that. Humor and curiosity, man. Humor and curiosity are the two best friends on your path of enlightenment or wake up.
I think I think one of the things as well to say is that there also is great experiences and learnings and joy and fun along the way. It's not all doom and gloom and being in tears and crying. It is actually like there's some really great moments of breakthrough and breakdown. Like, there's much to experience along the way.
Totally. I have had the kind of sex, intimacy, and connection with people that's been beyond my own imagination. Like any wildest fantasies that I thought of, that I, sort of the best thing I can have in my life, I have been beyond that by many, like exponentially beyond that. And it has all been as a result of cultivating depth and attention, so it's going back to that same place where, like, when you allow yourself to go deeper in the down, you're also able to experience the same joy and pleasure in the up. And that's the only way it's possible.
I really resonate with everything you're saying, and I think actually one of the biggest problems that we face, or men face, and people face in the world, is that actually it's still not widely known. It's still not like people are widely aware that this is the journey, and so they beat themselves up for the story, or they beat themselves up for how they're feeling, never realizing that actually, that what you're talking about, that cultivating that humor and that lightness with it all, and being that it's like what I hear and the way I relate to it is like cultivating the observer, being able to actually go into the observer mode, which is a fascinating thing when you first come across it. It's like, oh fuck, I can observe myself. Like, what is and but so many men, especially you coach men, we coach men, and so much of it is they don't even see that. They just see what it's far more directly connected to their identity and their personality. It's like, this is just who I am, and I need to fix this. And it's like, okay. So then like trying to like it's basically like unplugging them from the matrix. And I think to kind of speak into what you were just saying there, David, is like that's the thing that actually I don't think there is a light way to do that. Like, you have to be able to go through the pain or through that, and we've all been through it in our own ways. But I think that there is an inherent shock or thing that you need to pass through that can be unpleasant, when you really come to term with your own reality and your own stuff, like whatever is there in your way. And like you were speaking into jealousy earlier, that's a huge one. But whatever it is, whether one of the first things for me on my journey was just recognizing that I was judging myself for feeling insecure, and so then I'm like, I need to fix that. Like, I'm not a good man until I'm completely confident. Until someone said to me, "Oh, you just don't accept yourself for yourself." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I want to change." And he's like, "You can't change because you're just going to be more of you." And I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, fuck you." And but eventually I sat down, and actually, funny enough, Kapil, like, moments after he said that and it like sunk in, I started laughing. I was like, "He's fucking right." I was like, "Oh, he's so fucking right." I'm constantly just judging myself for being not good enough here, or feeling a certain way or whatever. and then it's like, oh wow, like that's what it means, right? To really accept yourself for yourself is all of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, powerful.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny when you were talking about it, what I was just thinking is like I was that man for first 35 years of my life who had no idea what wake up or enlightenment even meant. I was so busy
Mm.
just trying to prove things so that I can tick all those boxes that will make people happy. Because when people were happy, my way of having a happy life was that people around me, and when I say people around me, like my family, my friends, my social circle, when they looked at me and said, "Oh, this man has done something in life." So, like I define my happiness that once all these people start to say that I'm happy, then I should be happy. So I was just busy ticking all those boxes for many, many, many years. And it's not that I wasn't happy. I think I had reasonable amount of happiness. And at the same time, part of the realization, and I think I only realized that sort of about a year into my personal growth work, that was the case. That I had actually designed my life to. Someone asked me this question: what is your big desire in life? And like, what do you mean, what's your big desire in life? Like, just give me like 10 desires that you have. It's like, I don't know. The only thing I could think of is like better car, better house, better buying things. But I couldn't think of anything more than that. So I had to peel all the layers to really understand who I was as a man, irrespective of what other people wanted me to be, to then start to learn what I want and how I wanted to live my life. And then actually you can design your life that way. So I think, to your point, that I think most people are living that way, I agree. I think it is kind of like that matrix type thing that sort of there's that moment where you get a jolt in life. It's usually something. It's like I have this thing that I say that you only change from desperation or inspiration, and mostly from desperation. So usually we get to a point in life where we're like, we hit our bottom, and it's like, enough's enough. I have to make a change, and that is the turning point. And part of that is it's like an ego death every time. Wake up or enlightenment is like ego death. You have to go through the process of dying and rebirth, which is painful. And that's why I think a lot of people avoid it. Having said that, using sexuality as a way for wake up is like, if you are gonna suffer, if you are gonna have pain, might as well choose a path that has some pleasure in it.
Beautiful.
Relationship and sex.
Beautiful.
So yeah, like, I mean, if you choose sexuality as the path for wake up, there's a lot of fun in it. You will be tortured, but you will have a lot of fun too.
So I think that's a great place to end. That's man. Thank you so much, Kapil. I think that was a great. Really, I think we've crossed the whole arc here of what it is to wake up, but also the experiences one goes through, and emotionally, whether you choosing the sexual path as well, like what actually comes up, and how all men are sharing in similar feels, but we're not actually sharing them outwardly. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you or find out more about your coaching programs, like, where could they find you?
Yeah, nibbana.life is my website. So that's the best place. And my email address is kapil@nibbana.life. And I'm on Instagram. Instagram is the Nibbana, the handle. So find me that way. And yeah, I would love to talk to anyone. And it's been so much fun. thanks for inviting me on the podcast. I've been waiting for this for a long time. And I know that once we start talking, we can just keep talking. So it's always like that. And grateful and thank you for that.
Pleasure, man. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah.
So that was a very interesting episode, right? Didn't realize that, using sex as a way of basically being a consciousness practice, or as a way of, building your awareness, could be also fun and incredibly torturous as well. But a very worthwhile path to go down.
Yeah, and I think this is going to really open people's minds up to the concept of men and sex. Like it's not just this one track thing, and give especially for women as well, give them a deeper understanding for what drives men around sex. And it's not just simply that we're simpletons, but actually that we're seeking something, that we're actually wanting to expand into something bigger and greater and find our purpose. And sex actually allows us to do that. I think that's possibly, since we started this podcast, understanding relationships as a mode of self-awareness and self-development. I think that's something that's really become more and more at home for us as an understanding.
I think one of the things I've personally seen is, like, if you treat your relationship as your number one means of building self-awareness, your relationship takes on a whole new way of being, because you stop, like, everything becomes about what am I creating here? What am I doing here? Instead of, projecting and blaming, and like looking to how you can learn from your conflicts, your arguments, your disagreements, your miscommunications.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So, some more AOB. Obviously, as we said at the beginning, we've got the communications course on Thursday the 16th at 7:30 p.m. BST. If you're a guy out there and you are finding that you just don't connect in the way you'd like to with women, like, that feeling where you go on dates and you keep getting that dreaded message afterwards, like, oh, it was a nice date, you're a nice guy, but I just didn't feel a spark. I don't feel like I'm ready for a relationship. I don't feel I'm ready for dating. All these things are code words that women give you when they just don't feel there's a connection between the two of you. And you know what it feels like. And it's something that I can't say have happened to me, massively in my life, but I've learned to build ways in which I can deeply connect with people. And that's basically what you're going to get.
Yeah, we're going to go, and it's going to be very structural. We're going to go through the specific elements that you need to know. So you're going to leave this course with everything you need to know in terms of making a great conversation and developing deep and meaningful connections through conversation.
Yeah, and all the details are in the show notes, so you can just click through. And like we said before, it's free, completely free, doesn't cost you anything. You just turn up and you get to see our wonderful faces again.
Cool. I think that's the main thing we wanted to tell you. Other than that, if you have any questions about anything that has occurred on the show, please do get in touch. You can reach us on our email, which is hello@authenticdatingseries.com. Or you can reach out to us on Instagram, which is our most prolific place socially online. We do most of our social online partying on Instagram, so you can meet us there. Loads of great content. And you know what I keep finding nowadays, Dave? I keep getting comments from people saying how great our feed is. What a wonderful feed you have. I'm just like, well, thank you. Why, thank you. So yeah, if you don't know why it's so great, you should definitely go and check out and find out for yourself why our feed is so great. There's apparently there's some good 6-pack pictures of David on there, which is attracting all the guests. Someone said to me today, they said, who's in charge of that? Oh no, it's our friend in New York. He was saying to me, who's in charge of posting all those images of David? And I said, David is. He said, very clever. Yeah.
Don't worry, listeners. I've got lots of those to come. We had a lovely photo shoot we did not too long ago.
Yeah, I took
some
pictures of David walking with his shirt open. Yeah, so sexy. Yeah, we know what you want. So more pictures of David. There you go. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks. This has been another great show. We'll catch you next week. Ciao.
Cool. Have a good one. Ciao, ciao.